Hey everybody, good day. Steve Prziborowski here. Welcome to episode 8 of How to Excel at Fire Department Promotional Examinations. So episode 8, we're going to talk about what is the fire chief looking for when I take my next promotional examination. And this will be part 1 of a multi-part series because I think it's critical for you to have an understanding about what the fire chief is looking for. So let's get started. All right, as a reminder, some great free stuff available off my website, code3firetraining.com. Great information for any rank of firefighter out there, from firefighter all the way up to fire chief. Lots of good firefighter, lots of good officer development information, leadership information, training information, promotional preparation. A lot of good stuff to keep you busy. Please share with others. All right, as a reminder, these webinars are based upon my promotional preparation book that's available off my website, How to Excel at Fire Department Promotional Examinations. So now, in episode number 7, the previous episode, we discussed that hard, important question of what are they looking for? And as a reminder, who are they? They are pretty much the raters in your promotional process. Those raters that really make a difference to decide whether you move forward or do not pass the test. So we talked about that in the last episode, but let's continue the discussion now. So now I want to focus on what the fire chief is looking for in a promoted candidate. So typically, the fire chief is not usually involved with the promotional process initially. He or she will usually be there to greet the raters and give them an overview of what a great, not an adequate, but what a great candidate might look like. So typically, during a fire department promotional exam that could be anywhere from a day to a week or even more, the fire chief is usually there at the very beginning to greet all of the raters. Now, it's not uncommon, as you're probably well aware, that raters come from within the department, but also from many departments. Many departments may be in the area or even out of state. I know some departments that don't even have in-state raters. They have out-of-state raters. I mean, I've been flown into departments across the country to be a rater, and I'm sitting next to someone that's from another state that's not even in the same state of the fire department that is, hosting the examination. So it all depends, but regardless, it doesn't matter whether the raters work for that department or work for a department across the country. A rater is a rater, someone that's obviously done the job, that is being evaluated, and someone that can make a good decision. So usually that fire chief is there to welcome everybody and thank them for their time. Thank them for coming down away from their busy schedules, to let the work pile up in their absence, to do such an important process, which is really helping choose the next promoted candidates. So the fire chief usually gives a standard speech. The fire chief is not there to, say, promote John, promote Lisa. I mean, I've never heard a fire chief say that. I've been involved in countless promotional processes around the country, and usually the fire chief statement or speech is the same speech that's given at every other department. And it's almost like, wow. So the good thing is, very rarely does a fire chief want something that's really out of the ordinary. Most fire chiefs just want good people, good low maintenance people. I mean, people that I talked about in the last episode about what the oral board is looking for or what the other promotional raters are looking for. The fire chief's usually looking for the same things. So now let's get into some of the things that a fire chief is looking for. None of this stuff should be surprising. I mean, if you really have prepared and really understand and really think about putting yourself as a fire chief, this is nothing shocking, I would hope. So really, what is a fire chief looking for? They're looking for someone to lead by example, not just talk the talk, walk the walk, someone that leads by example. So if you're a firefighter or engineer that doesn't like wearing their full uniform during the day, I mean, odds are that's probably the officer you're going to be if you ever get promoted to officer. So if you're struggling as a firefighter engineer to follow the rules, to do the right thing, to be a leader, you know what? Time to step up your game, because that's the reputation you're going to have is, oh, he or she is probably not going to be a good officer because they can't even wear their uniform shirt as it is, or their boots are not polished, or whatever. And I know some people say, well, who cares about the boots being polished, Steve? Who cares about the correct uniform being worn or not being worn? Well, here's the thing. If you can't follow the rules and regulations now, or the policies now, which usually say wear the appropriate uniform and so forth, if you're not going to follow them as a firefighter engineer, how are you going to be as an officer? And also, do you want to be one of those individuals that was known as a slacker as a firefighter engineer, that all of a sudden now you're a captain and then you have to hold someone accountable? Guess what they're going to throw back in your face? Oh, who are you now? Now you got the big gold badge or the good, the big promotion to captain or lieutenant. You never did that stuff, and now you're making us do that stuff. What a hypocrite. Yeah, hypocrite, I get it. So now's the time to start cleaning up your act if you're not already there. And for those that are already there doing the right thing as firefighter engineers, awesome. Also, to tie upon leading by example, the chief wants someone to be a leader, a supervisor, a manager, role model, coach, mentor, advocate, cheerleader, trainer. I mean, the list goes on. And you may go, I just want to be a freaking lieutenant. I don't want to be anything else. Yeah, exactly. But these are all the roles of a fire officer, regardless of lieutenant, captain, battalion chief, division chief, deputy chief, assistant chief, fire chief. We all, regardless of our officer rank, have to be each one of these at any given time. And knowing when to do each is critical to your success. You can't just, oh, I'll be a supervisor when I want to be a supervisor. No, you get that promoted badge to the first rank, lieutenant or captain, whatever your company officer rank is, game on. So now's the time you have to be these things. And you may go, well, of course I'll be these things. Well, again, these are what the fire chief is usually telling the panel in advance. Besides welcoming them and thanking them, it's usually, I'm looking for somebody to do these things. I mean, these are things that you'd think any officer that's rating you would be looking for anyway, but again, it's not secret squirrel stuff. What else is the fire chief looking for? Someone to enforce the policies, someone to enforce the SOPs, the guidelines, whatever your document calls your formal rules, policies, regulations, whatever. Someone that's actually going to enforce them. I remember as a battalion chief, I had a captain one time who was working overtime in a few days at another station that I managed, and he called me up, and it was a stupid question. I mean, I'm glad he at least called me, but he's like, hey, chief, just want to let you know I'm working overtime with you on Saturday. Hey, cool, looking forward to seeing you, blah, blah. And, well, I'm like, okay, he never calls me like that. Why is he calling me? And his question basically was, well, I'm working, it looks like I'm working with so-and-so, so-and-so that always has the mustache that's like way down to here, that is way beyond regulations. In our department, good, bad, or different, the regulations, we have mustache regulations, facial grooming regulations. And there's always one individual that exceeds that by far. And this captain was having to work with this individual. And the captain actually asked me when I was battalion chief, if I get to work and so-and-so actually has the mustache way beyond regulation, what am I supposed to do? And what am I supposed to do as a boss? He asked me the question, what am I going to do? Oh, I'll just do nothing. His current captain doesn't do anything, so why should you bother? I mean, no, I told him like I would as a leader, a supervisor, manager, role model, all these things right here. I told him, well, John, not his real name, Captain John, I expect you to do your job. So that means if you come in and he shaved the mustache off, still say hi to him the same way you would if he has his mustache down way beyond regulation. And then if the mustache is beyond department policy, I expect you to deal with it. And then of course the captain goes, well, we all know that his current captain isn't dealing with the problem, which is sort of true. I get it, because every time anybody would see the individual, including the fire chief, Steve, would you have this captain do? I got it, boss. The current captain was struggling at the time to do their job. Well, here's the news flash. First of all, as an officer, if that is your person on a day-to-day basis that is not following the grooming policies, you need to do your job, because you're not helping the individual, number one, and you're screwing your counterparts. So now this new captain comes in, if he actually does his job like I expected him to do, guess what that guy with the big mustache is going to say to that captain on overtime for the day? Well, my normal captain doesn't make me follow the policy. He's good with it. Why are you jamming me up, dude? No. Why are you, mustache boy, affectionately said, of course, making that captain or that boss do their job? You're making them do their job, and now you're making them feel bad about doing their job. Well, this captain came in that day. Thankfully, the captain did their job, and the captain told, hey, so-and-so, shave the thing. Do you want me to shave it, or are you going to shave it yourself? And apparently they had a little squabble and everything else. And thankfully the captain actually did their job, because when I came in on Monday, since I was on a Monday through Friday assignment at the time. When I came in on Monday and I saw that one fire for the mustache, I sort of chuckled because I didn't know what went on. I mean, I didn't get a phone call over the weekend. I was sort of curious what happened, but I want to walk in like, hey, so-and-so, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? And I see the one guy that usually has a long mustache. The mustache had been shaved, and I chuckled to myself thinking, well, either that guy did it on his own, which I doubt, or the captain made him do it. And I afterward talked with the captain. I made him, hey, how did Saturday go and everything else? He goes, oh, he was jamming me up, but I stuck to the guns. The guy threatened to call his union rep. The guy threatened to sue me. And it was all basically false promises. It's like, dude, just do your friggin' job. We got training we got to do. The bell's going to go off. Don't make me do my job. And however he handled it. But again, if you're the current supervisor that's allowing that firefighter to break or bend the rules, you're screwing every one of your counterparts, those counterparts that come in to work a trade for you, work an overtime day for you, because then when they have to hold that person accountable, you've screwed them. You've set them up for failure. So you think you're taking the easy way out by not dealing with the folks that need to be dealt with? Remember, it's not just that person. Do what's good for the greatest good, and that's your fellow officers, because you want them to have your back as well too. And you know what? If your firefighter really likes you, he or she'll do their job and follow policy, and not put you in that position. So I know, easier said than done. Fire chief wants someone to be the designated adult, and that's pretty much covering all the things above. And I don't mean that in a derogatory, condescending term. The fire chief just expects you to do your job. It's as simple as that. What's your job as an officer? All those things on the second bullet point. So be the designated adult, because somebody has to at times. Also, what's the fire chief looking for? Someone that can write and speak effectively, play nicely in the sandbox with others. That sort of touches on interpersonal skills. We'll talk a little bit more about communication skills in a bit, but basically communication skills. So if you don't have outstanding interpersonal skills or interpersonal communication skills, outstanding oral communication, outstanding written communication skills, I know they're not as sexy and exciting as strategy and tactics and fighting fire. I get it. But these are critical factors and components of leadership in today's world, not just the fire service. So we need officers that can write, speak effectively, and play nicely in the sandbox with others. Sad part is, though, Google search every day, or internet search, whatever portal you use, and you'll see these things that are not happening out there. Problems in the firehouse. You know, it's embarrassing. I mean, when you get to that officer rank, I know a lot of people complain that, well, the department didn't put me through any report writing training. The department didn't send me to speech school. I've heard those. And I'm like, do you really want us to give you that training, as painful as it is? Probably not. Yeah, I get it. Don't push it back on me. Anytime any one of us take on any role, whether it's our current role or one that we aspire to, we need to know what we're getting into. And we also got to understand where our strengths and our weaknesses lie. So if we're not strong at something, we can't wait for the department or the organization to train us. It'd be nice, but it's not going to happen. You've got to set yourself up for success long in advance. And then when something bad happens, you can't blame the department. Well, they never trained me. Sorry, we can't train you in everything. I mean, I wish we could. What else? Chief's also looking for someone to say yes or no when necessary. Hey, just like being a parent, there's a time and a place to say yes, time and a place to say no, and sometimes hell no. Be careful with using the swear words, because now that could be a hostile work environment. You could be harassing me. You could be, I don't know what, or offending me. So be very careful with the swear words, especially in the workplace, because as soon as someone doesn't like what you said, they can throw it right back on you. Do your job, though. Make the tough decisions. I mean, the easy decisions are easy, but again, now that you're an officer, a leader, supervisor, and you're going higher up the chain of command, you got to make the tough decisions. That's what you're getting paid for. And you may go, well, I'm just a volunteer, Steve. It doesn't matter if you're a volunteer, career, or whatever. If you're in that leadership role where you're an officer supervising others, that's one of the reasons you're there. Not to be the fun monitor or the say yes to everything. I know some parents that just say yes all the time and they never say no. Well, you know what? There's a time and a place saying no. I know you don't want to be the bad guy, the bad gal, but just like a parent, you got to make the tough decisions and sometimes say yes and no. And here's something that some of you may not appreciate or may not get until you're in the administrative role. And some of you may never have a desire to go above battalion chief, and that's fine. We need great people at every rank. But you've got to support your administration as much as your troops. I know it's very easy, especially when you go from firefighter engineer to company officer, or even company officer to battalion chief. You want to go to bat for your troops. Here's a news flash. We want you to go to bat for your troops. We want you to support your troops, your crews, your boots on the ground folks. You better. That's how teams are developed, and that's how teams are maintained. And guess what the job gets done by? Teamwork. So support your troops, but also recognize now that you're also in the middle. I mean, battalion chiefs, company officers, you can feel stuck in the middle between the crews at the firehouse, as well as the command staff, the administrative staff, whatever your department calls the chiefs, you know, that work a 40-hour week. You know, you're here as part of the team. You're part of the management team, and even as a company officer, and you may say, well, as a company officer, I'm not part of the management team. I'm represented by the union, and I'm not, you don't see manager in my title, just first line supervisor. Okay, I get it. But in fact, you are part of the management team. I mean, that's just my opinion. So again, it's a balancing act, because you should never try to draw a line in the sand to pit one against the other, nor should you be trying to, you know, cause one to hate the other. We're here to try to be collaborative and all team players with all ranks. So for this episode, the last thing I want to briefly touch on and sort of give you a homework assignment is the term soft skills. So when a fire chief is briefing that promotional panel, whether it's an oral board panel or a teaching demonstration panel, a tactical exercise panel, those raters that have come from other departments to rate your department's promotional candidates, this is usually one of the other things I'm hearing more and more about. A fire chief wants someone that has the necessary soft skills for today's leader. And you may go, soft skills? I've never heard of that term. Get used to that term. It's not going away. I encourage you to Google search. So this is your homework assignment, because we're going to talk more about soft skills in the next episode. But I want you to understand what soft skills are versus hard skills. If you ask the average firefighter, engineer, who would make like a great supervisor, leader up the chain of command, usually they'll say the ones that are good. Hey, if John was a great, awesome, kick-ass firefighter, he'll be an awesome chief. If Lisa was an awesome, kick-ass firefighter, they'll be an awesome chief. Not necessarily, especially the higher up you go, it's apples and oranges on job responsibilities. I mean, yeah, we still got to take care of our troops, do the job, take care of our customers, but it's night and day sometimes between what a fire chief does versus a firefighter and what the responsibilities are. So soft skills are critical, even for today's company officer and especially for today's chief officer. So basically, they're character traits or interpersonal aptitudes that affect your ability to work and interact with others. Things I've touched on already and will continue to touch on. Soft skills are the things that, not just the fire service, it's leadership across the country and every line of work is saying that is lacking in today's employment force of all ages. I mean, this is one thing I see is that the college graduates today are lacking the soft skills necessary. They may have a great degree, and before you laugh and say, hey, you don't need a college education to be an officer in the fire service, I'm not saying you do. But whether you do or you don't, doesn't matter. Even those without degrees are still not demonstrating sometimes the soft skills necessary. So we'll leave it on that, talk more about that in next episode. So in the next episode, let's discuss more about what the fire chief is looking for. Until then, thank you very much for the gift of your time. Here's all my contact information, and be safe. Take care, everybody.